Alright, this is just a very quick demo on the keychain project where you guys are going to be using an image or you can do it by hand. But I wanted to show you how to do it with an image, and this is through the iPad. This will be exactly the same on a computer, but again, I just wanted to do it from the iPad because it's a little bit different how to access your stuff. But yeah, so here is our main Autodesk page. What I'm going to do is use the pan tool on the right here just to move my screen over just a little bit. Then I could hit enter to exit that command. Now what I have preloaded is this Assassin's Creed logo, and basically what I'm going to do is take it, it's a little blurry, it's totally fine, doesn't have to be clean, and I'm going to go ahead and save it. So I'm going to save image. And what that did was it just saved it to my iPad. So now I'm going to go into Google Drive on my iPad, and you can see I already preloaded two of them in here. So you can see right there. But what I'm going to do is, for you guys, it's going to be your AutoCAD folder in your Google Drive folder. For me, I just titled a new folder called Logo Demo just for this. So it's a little bit different. So use your AutoCAD folder for this part. And what we're going to do is simply upload our image from our photo library. You can see I have a bunch of them. Let's take that and hit upload, and it'll be good to go. Now, there's a reason I have two in here. If you look for an image and you find that if you find an image that is a PNG file, so in other words it has this checkered background, and I saved it into my folder, you're not going to be able to actually load this into AutoCAD. So when you're looking for an image to use as a reference, make sure that it has a background in it. The white image will actually show up much better in AutoCAD than a black image because your AutoCAD background is like grayish, or like, you know, a red, whatever. You can use whatever you want. Just make sure that you aren't using a PNG file, which gets rid of the backdrop. It will not work and look nice on AutoCAD, and that's why I brought both of them into my demo, so I can show you exactly what they look like. So now you see both of these are in my drive. What I'm going to do is go back into AutoCAD, and it's going to resize, reconnect, good stuff. You might want to just do this before you actually connect to AutoCAD so you don't have to deal with that. But now I'm going to go into my Insert tab. And within my Insert tab, I'm going to hit Attach. And this will allow me to attach a drawing. So you can see that I have the black and white version of this and then this funky looking version. And the reason this looks so messed up is because it's a PNG file. AutoCAD can't read this very well. Where a JPEG, on the other hand, AutoCAD can read very well. Let's see, JPEG, PNG. So I'm going to use the JPEG version, open it up. And then in this screen, it's just asking you, where do you want it to go? Okay, so you don't need to change anything on here. The scale can be, you could specify it on screen or just keep it at 1. We're going to specify it on screen. And there's a reason why in a second here. What I'm going to do is go hit OK. And I'm going to simply click near my origin, or I could just type 0, 0 as my origin. And then I could scale it. Now, there is a step I missed. So it says the base image is 6.4 by 6.0. What I'm going to do is actually scale this by 0.5. And there's a reason for that. So you can see it's relatively small. What I want to do, now what I did was just did a zoom extents there. So I zoomed in just a little bit. Actually, I'm going to zoom out just a little. What I'm going to do now is create a new box. And what I want this box to be, so I'm going to do 0, 0, and then 4, 4. This is the maximum size that your little keychain or your symbol should encompass, a 4 by 4 square. So as long as your image sits within a 4" by 4" square, you're good to go. So you could just double check that yourself, or you could look at the image properties and adjust it from there. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and erase that. Now, big tip here is if I click on my image, you can mess around with some of the features on here. The one big adjustment that you will want to use is called this fade tool. And when you fade this, you're going to notice it kind of disappears into the background, which is exactly what we want. Whoops. Now, the reason for that is because when I go back into Zoom Extents, you can see the entire image. When I start drawing on this guy, you're going to notice that it's a lot easier to see my lines. And all I'm going to be doing here is literally using my drawing tools to simply trace this object out. And all I'm using is my arc tool here, along with my line tools. Now I could use my trim tool to get rid of the extra stuff here. So I'm going to select everything and then just trim off excess, and then keep going from there. Use my pan tool to move down just a little bit. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, but you could use your tools here to go ahead and draw this out. Now the one thing I will caution you about is you don't want to use like a line tool like this and do a bunch of little lines. And this is obviously exaggerated here, right? But the problem with this is that when we take this into our laser cutter later on, your lines will be jagged and they won't be clean. They'll look really messy. So you want to be careful of that. And all I'm doing here is on my iPad keyboard is just hitting Control-Z, and that's just going backwards. Okay. Now the other thing you want to avoid is having gaps. So that's why your O-snaps are so important. I'm actually going to toggle this off so you guys can actually see what I'm talking about here. So let's say I'm putting a line right there. I'm not actually going to close it either. Let's say my line is right there, okay? And then I'm going to take my line tool and do something like that. Okay, so this is obviously exaggerated, but let's say that I assume this is connected, right? I assume that this is connected, and we're going to use a tool a little bit later on this week or next week that'll kind of connect all of this together regardless. So even if you made a mistake, we'll be able to fix it. But you're going to want to make sure that all of your lines here are actually connected. Otherwise, what'll happen is when we go in and actually shade it later on, it's not going to shade properly because there's gaps. Think of it as like paint in a mold. If you have a hole or a gap in that mold and you pour that paint in there, it's going to spill out somewhere else and it won't be contained within the drawing. And we'll talk about filling stuff later on. But when you're drawing this, you want to be very cognizant and make sure that you close all of your loops. So again, to get a drawing on here, we start with a blank sheet. We go to Insert, Attach, find your image, Open, OK. And then you can see your base image size right here. So this is too big. I'm going to scale it by 0.5 and we're good to go. Now to find your image, by the way, it's the same as opening up a document. You're going to go to your desktop on the left, this PC, Google Drive, My Drive, and then find your file. You can see it says local demo. My file's in there. This has been Mr. Wong. If you have any questions, let me know.